Are you one of the many spiritual abuse victims that also experienced spiritual abusive parenting? If so, you're going to want to tune into this video to understand more about that. My name is Dr. Felicia, and I'm a licensed psychologist, and I specialize in the treatment of spiritual abuse. And in today's video, I'm going to be discussing what spiritually abusive parenting looks like and how that is different from healthy spirituality and parenting. Unfortunately, a lot of you who have been through spiritual abuse did not have your first or only spiritually abusive experience within a spiritual institution. Many of you reported experiencing spiritual abuse within your own family of origin, especially from your parents. And so, for those of you who are in this position, you might be reluctant to, embrace spirituality as part of your identity. And if you're a parent, use that as part of your parenting. So this video will help you understand how spirituality is abused in spiritually abusive households and what it looks like when spirituality is used healthily. The first thing is that when healthy spirituality is used as a part of someone's parenting, they look at spirituality as a part of their identity, but as a healthy part of their identity. In other words, they're not looking at spirituality as like the only thing that defines them. When people have grown up in spiritually abusive environments, they often feel like spirituality is weaponized against them. And so they're not allowed to construe themselves, their relationships to other people, or any other things outside of spiritual confines. And so that can be very challenging because, as you know, I've talked about this a lot on my channel. Spirituality is an abstract concept. And when we're dealing with things that have to deal with abstract concepts, nuance, things like that, it's easy to become anxious and uncertain because we can't define certain things. How do you define how spiritual somebody is in terms of something that's observable and quantifiable? You really can't. And so for many people who have grown up in spiritually abusive households, they always had this sense of fear that things just weren't right and that they just weren't doing enough or measuring up to some spiritual standard. And so in a healthy spiritual environment, spirituality is a part of the person's whole. It's not something that consumes them in an unhealthy way. Another thing that happens in spiritually abusive households and with spiritually abusive parents is that spirituality is weaponized against the family. And so, when people, I talk about this in a lot of my other videos, but people who are spiritually abusive have a very difficult time and oftentimes will not accept or respect boundaries from other people. And so they will weaponize spirituality and use it as a way to tell other people what to do and to control them. And so oftentimes, in abusive households, you will find most of the time parents who are controlling, and the way that they use that control can happen in a lot of different ways. Spiritually abusive households, the spirituality is what is used to control. And so oftentimes people who have grown up in these types of households will feel like they are very limited in what they can do. The way they express themselves emotionally is limited. The way they express their creativity is limited. They feel very confined and very constricted. And that's, of course, from being on the receiving end of somebody who's very controlling. On the other hand, healthy spiritual households don't constrict or control people. Spirituality is actually a means of expression. It's a means of healthy expression. People who have grown up in healthy spiritual households feel that they can express themselves respectfully and emotionally. They can be creative. They feel like the spirituality enhances who they are as opposed to limits who they are. And so there's a very big difference between the two. Another thing that you will find in spiritually abusive households is that there is a great deal of shame involved, right? And so in healthy spirituality, when we're dealing with challenging emotions, when we're dealing with just things in life that can be very hard and that weigh us down. Our spirituality is a sense of comfort, it's a sense of solace, it's a sense of refuge. It's a way of being able to go forward, pull through, have have rest, have like a rock, something to rely on when things around you don't make sense, when things around you are hard to manage. But in abusive households where spirituality is used as that weapon of abuse, the opposite happens. And instead of having a place of solace and comfort, you have a place of fear. And so it's oftentimes when people are dealing with very challenging emotions or very challenging circumstances that spirituality is used against them to make them feel a lot worse. And so, for instance, I'll give you two examples. In a spiritually healthy household, let's say you as a child are going through something really challenging. The spirituality is part of a repertoire of different tools and different coping mechanisms that will help you get in touch with what you're feeling and cope through it, right? And so for people who have healthy relationships with their own spirituality, they will use their faith and their spirituality as they will cite it rather as something that got them through a very challenging time. However, people that have gone through spiritual abuse in their households will say that when they went through something difficult, spirituality was weaponized against them and it made them feel worse. And so, for an example, let's say, maybe you can relate to this. Maybe as a child, you come home, something happened to you that was really rough. I don't know, let's say like a friendship ended or something like that, and the friendship was really important to you. In a spiritually abusive household, something that could happen is that could be spirituality could be used as a way to dismiss the painful thing that you went through. So someone might say, well, it's all for the best, or everything has a way of working out, or that person just wasn't meant to be in your life. And as a child, especially, that can feel very invalidating. And when you're looking to your parents or your parental figures to provide solace and comfort, that can actually be very devastating. Right. So that's one way that spirituality can be weaponized, a way to make you feel dismissed and unheard. Another way, on the opposite extreme, that some people have also reported that they've experienced is having feeling shame, right? So the person, a spiritually abusive parent or parental figure may say, well, this happened to you because you don't take your faith seriously enough, or this thing was taking too much of your time away from what you needed to do spiritually, things like that. And so taking spiritual explanations and weaponizing them and using them as a way to shame that child. And so when something like that happens, a child is going to feel, wow, maybe something that they had no control over is now their fault. And they're going to not want to really bring up challenging things. And most importantly, they are going to view spirituality as something that is there to punish them and kick them when they're down. So those are some of there are lots of other differences, but the point of this video is to help you understand that spirituality in and of itself is not a bad thing. Spiritually abusive people weaponize it, and they weaponize it especially in parenting situations to control, to limit, to constrict, and to intimidate and dominate. Whereas when spirituality is a healthy part, is healthily used in parenting as part of a healthy relationship, spirituality is a source of comfort or source of solace. It's a way to help people express themselves and find deep meaning, not to control and to cause harm. So I hope that helps you. If you have any questions about this, I love for you to interact with other people in the comment section. Ask away. Talk about maybe experiences that you've had and what has helped you to use spirituality as a healthy way of self-expression, and also as perhaps a way of parenting, despite the experiences you've had. If you would like to book a consultation, you can go to my website, which is skillsetcounseling.com, and that way you can book a free consultation. I hope you have a wonderful day that is filled with peace. Bye-bye.